want business space, you want commercial business, you want green technology, you want green business, you want renewables, you want rail, you want houses.
Yeah.
Who's going to build it all?
Welcome back to Probuild360 TV and welcome back to the Onsite Podcast. I'd like to introduce you today to one of my very good friends, Rico, and I'm going to hand over to him to introduce himself because I don't think I could do him justice.
I think it's because you can't say my surname. I know you can. So I'm Rico Wojtulewicz. I'm Head of Policy and Market Insight for the National Federation of Builders and the Housebuilders Association. What that means is I represent predominantly small and medium-sized constructors, regional contractors, house builders, and I get paid to rant on your behalf.
Yes, you're the voice of our insane board meetings that have been very interesting recently, haven't they?
Yeah, we've got a new chairman, haven't we?
Yeah, for those that don't know, I'm the chairman of the Housebuilders Association, so me and Rico work closely together. So we wanted to talk today about... We're going to have many conversations, but I think today if we start with the suffocation of commercial viability on the smaller end of the house building sector, some of the reasons for it, some of the potential solutions to it, and that sort of thing. So one of the analogies that I've been using that I think you're in fair amount of agreement with is what's happening with the farmers across Europe and in the UK at the moment. And it's, as I say, it's about the suffocation of commercial viability, whether that's insidious plot or it's pure incompetency or it's the steady, slow march of towards globalization and technocracy remains to be seen, or if it's a combination of all of those things. I think it's probably a combination. But tell us in your words, Rico, how you see what's happening to our industry.
I think farmers is a good analogy because everyone knows what a farmer does, and they know the value of a farmer. And so there's a lot of benefit to understanding why they stay in business, how they can't stay in business, how hard they have to work, why they have to work that hard. And effectively they are disconnected from the rest of society because they do things in their own particular way. It's a good analogy for house builders to use because people like farmers. People, for some reason, love houses, love places, love good houses, and love local employment, but they hate house builders.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but I think there's a prevailing narrative in politics and some of the media to criticise the house building industry.
Well, I think that NIMBYism is an industry all of its own, you know.
Unfortunately, you're right. And you can expose that by looking at some of the groups that aren't NIMBYs classically, but support the NIMBY message.
Go on.
So you've got groups, say, that want to bring all of the empty homes back into use. Now, that's fine, and I don't disagree with that. We should get more.
Sounds sensible to me.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you look at the data across the OECD, the UK has got the fewest number of proportionally existing stock of vacant homes. That's long-term vacant, 6 months and above. Now we've got around 280, which is less than 1%. Germany, I think, is 6-7%.
Right.
A great example is we implemented this thing called Housing First, where it's a Finnish model, where they've reduced homelessness considerably, and you give everybody a home. So we implemented a trial of this, and surprise, at the end when they assessed the trial, what was the problem? We didn't have enough homes. Finland's got 8-9% vacant housing stock.
Right.
So groups that say we should bring back housing from not being in use, and don't actually support the building of new houses.
Yeah.
So it's NIMBYism. It's cloaked NIMBYism because effectively they're saying this is the solution to the housing crisis when they know damn well, when they look at all the data, it's not.
It's not even scratching the surface. Yeah.
So that's why it is an industry by itself, and there are many groups out there that get great donations. CPRE is a great example.
CPRE?
So the Campaign to Protect Rural England. Now, we've had some discussions as to the CPRE, and it started very well actually, but they supported small sites, and which is great for kind of more rural or less urban locations.
Yeah.
But the problem is that supporting small sites and then arming your members to oppose all development means that actually you're, in practical terms, opposing all development. And when you're not supporting the policies that are put forward, you just say, yes, we support more sort of sites, then actually you are creating a situation where smaller builders especially impacted considerably, and you're supporting NIMBYism. And my opinion, and it's probably just my opinion, or it's a guess, is that
Sure.
they're an organisation that exists on donations.
Right.
So if a lot of their members say we don't want houses in our local area, well, it's not going to be very smart for them to go, well, we support housing on smaller sites, because they'll have lower donations. So that is effectively an industry in itself. You're industrialising NIMBYism.
It really is, yeah. And it's also, it's not just financial, economic industry. It's also a political vote spinner, you know, in terms of the value of sort of NIMBYism and the environmentalist policies and lobbyists. So here we've got the CPRE policy guidance. Land is a precious resource and must be used wisely. CPRE supports a brownfield first, we were just talking about this, brownfield first, greenfield last strategy as a general principle. However, just because a site is brownfield does not mean it should necessarily be developed. Response?
Oh yeah, I agree. Just because a site is brownfield doesn't mean it should be developed for residential development.
Yeah.
Look, planning is really complicated, and I get why people don't really understand it, but let's just take two terms, brownfield and greenfield, right?
Yeah.
Brownfield is a site that is allocated for non-residential, so non-housing needs.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you can't put residential on it,
Yeah.
but if you do, you really want to do mixed development. So let's say we're in Birmingham.
Yeah.
I'm from Birmingham. Great automotive sector, great parts manufacturing. So if you start using all of that land up, and we're in Aston, you know, Whitton and all that, massive housing estates, all centred around industry.
Yeah.
If you start using that industrial land for housing, where do all the jobs go for? Where do you put the community facilities, the GP surgeries, the shops? Now you've lost all the brownfield site. Well, you then have to stick it either outside of town, which isn't, you know, active travel, which means, you know, you've got to drive there.
Yeah.
And often on the green belt.
Yeah.
Or you don't build it at all, which is what we're doing now. And back to that, sticking it outside of town, if you do that, you then justify more development on those areas, because now you've got infrastructure there. So the CPRE message is flawed, because what they're really going to do in the long term is lose more green belts, because they're not being strategic with land use, which was their first line. Yeah.
Do you think that there is an appreciation for the balance and proportionality of various land uses and a proper strategy in place? And I know that the answer is no, but
no, because it's really complicated, and people don't like complicated messages. That's why people go, brownfield first, not greenfield, because it's simple. But as I explained just then about the CPRE and what you might lose and why brownfield first doesn't work, you need a couple of minutes to explain that to everybody. Some people get it straight away. Some people just need to think of it in a different way, and politicians don't have that time. And also they want to win votes, not necessarily.
They're not actually bothered by the long-term outcomes.
Not always, no. Especially not in election season. And, and we know that because this government, and historically many governments, probably since the 1930s, maybe 1950s if we're being really generous, haven't really had a regional strategy, because they want to keep things local, because local wins your votes. But you can't do everything locally. So, and I think that the question you asked is, I'll give a good example. Say if you want brownfield first. Okay, fine, we're all going to go brownfield first. Well, you have to have tall buildings, because otherwise you're going to pass the housing crisis on to the next generation. So you can't just build like 9 or 10 story buildings. You have to have 20, 30 story buildings. Right. Now, people go, we don't want that monstrosity overlooking us. Okay, fine, we'll build narrow and we'll build on the green belt, and they can't build on the green belt. So, well, what do you want? And I'm not saying that the way we currently build or have built these 20, 30 story buildings is right.
Right.
But, and this is about commercial viability again, because that's, you know, what we're talking about. If you said to a developer or a investor, because actually, say in London, it's investors, not developers that own the land.
Right.
If you deliver a building that delivers balconies, green spaces, mixed use, underground parking, whatever it might be, and if you show this in your designs and you meet all of our requirements, we will give you planning almost instantly. I guarantee you all those things will be included, and the developer will come back straight away, or the investor will come back with the right design for you. because they know they don't have to wait 10 years.
You're absolutely right.
And they don't have to, because people just think, no, you just build houses. Well, no, you don't. You have to arrange your supply chain. You have to get all the materials in place. You have to get sign-off from the local authorities, sign-off from your statutory consultees that aren't local planners. But
And you another one is paying for specialist consultants on the part of the local authority because they don't have the knowledge and expertise in-house. So you're paying your planning application fee to pay for our consultants to write the reports and do the surveys and do the calculations, to then have to pay for the local authorities' external specialists to check our consultants' reports. Talk about commercial viability. It's insanity.
Absolutely right. There's a company called Equans who are the only private sector company that run a planning department in North Lincolnshire.
Private sector planning department.
Yeah. So they're contracted in by the local authorities to do it. I think they're rated in the top 5 planning departments in the country.
Well, what do I always say, Rico? I say let the free market do its job.
Yeah, and what's interesting is people always go, planners never stay in the departments. Nobody wants to work for a local authority. The money's not good. They go to the private sector. Well, the reason they do that is because, and by the way, this doesn't happen in North Lincolnshire. They don't have very, very small levels of staff turnover. People often, if they leave, they'll come back to Equans because in that local area, you don't need necessarily a development consultant to get your project over the line.
Planning consultant.
Yes, planning or development. Yeah, absolutely. So
I would love to not have to have the planning consultant.
But you need
involved.
it because the local authority planning system makes it impossible for you to not have it.
Yeah, this is what it seems like even here in the Midlands. It seems like
that's how it feels.
Country. It's like we go, why do we have to have a planning consultant? Now on some projects, we may want one because if it's complex and there's a lot of stuff that I don't understand, and there's someone with more experience, yeah, fine, we'll put one in. But there are projects where I'm going, we've got a great case officer on the planning side. The project's simple. There's no obscure sort of policies that need satisfying. Let's just go for it. But they'll be like, they won't communicate. They will not communicate without that buffer of the planning consultants being in place. And do you know what it feels like? It feels like it's an old boys club. Because a lot of the planning consultants and the planners are sort of part of the same. They drink together in the pub and they're all part of the same area and the same circles of people. It's like very much you scratch our back and we'll scratch yours. Sort of. That's what the feeling that I get is.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure it's like that, and I think that the reason I say that is because a lot of planning departments are gutted. They don't have people that work in the area. They work from home.
Right.
They're new to the sector. I think you were telling me you've got somebody who was a primary school teacher 2 years ago and now he's a planner.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand the commercial viability of a planning application, you don't understand what what impact a delay can have, for example. Okay, COVID is a bit of a special case, but it's still continuing now. If you delay development by 6 months during COVID, prices went up by 12.5%.
Yeah, 12.5% over that period.
So if you delay...
That's just materials.
And labour went up 19%. Yeah. So that was broadly across the UK. So if you delay development 6 months for something they planned for a year ago anyway, well, the chances are the prices have gone up by 25-30%. And now that isn't viable anymore.
It's not viable anymore. And on top of that, it's not just, I mean, the number one thing to do with viability, yes, is the financial aspect, but it's also risk. So you take our site in Hawks Farm. It's a year's worth of a planning application for 10 gorgeous houses. That should be an absolute no-brainer. Real win for the local authority if they just be constructive with it. But it's a slightly rural area. It's on the way up to Leamington Spa. They break into the site. They got stolen cars that get stripped. We've got car parts all over the place. You've got asbestos roofs on the commercial units at the back, which are 30 metres away from occupied homes. That if there's a fire, if there's more antisocial behaviour, crime, whatever that the site is attracting as it's undeveloped, that's cost as well. It's cost to us. It's cost to the local community. It's a bloody eyesore. And I don't think it's appreciated at all.
So this kind of comes back to what happened in 1993, it was called the Town and Country Planning Act. And effectively what it did is it put the powers of plan making into the hands of local authorities because they wanted it. Now, they've never taken those powers seriously in order to properly plan an area. And we know that because the first people they got rid of discussing these things with were the people that knew what homes would need to be built in the area. Because now they decided what was going to be built in the area. Local authorities now had to produce, they always had to produce local plans, but now they were responsible for kind of really identifying how the housing needs were met in that area. So they would kind of do housing needs assessments and all that. And by the way, housing needs assessments are a farce because they don't count people that are, say, need independent support when they're getting older.
Social care and...
or semi-independent. Because actually they're two different things. You might have a set of houses where you have one carer in all that area, or you might need full-time care in a facility. Yeah. So if you don't count those, you don't count people that are at home because they can't afford to leave the home.
Why would they not include these concepts?
Well, that's my point, you see. If you're...
Is it just incompetence?
Yeah, I'd say it's because a local authority who wants to take control, which is what the Town and Country Planning Act was about, then doesn't take control, they are incompetent. Yeah. Whereas if they invited people like yourself, and there are companies that are larger developers like yourselves that will only build affordable housing for the local market, first-time buyers, 2 or 3 bed homes, semis, because they know that's their marketplace. Yeah. If you exclude all of them from the conversations, you then lose that inherent knowledge that's intrinsic to understanding what your housing needs assessment should look like. Yeah. And
they're putting the cart before the horse, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're creating the plan, taking the local plan to action, and then sort of bumbling their way through to when we all say this doesn't work.
Yeah,
why not do it the other way around? Why not consult with us?
Well, one of the reasons why is because they don't want to be seen as though they're colluding with house builders.
Why would you not want to collude with house builders? We're the ones delivering the solution. It's like health minister saying, I don't want to collude with doctors. Oh, what do you mean? Well, they're the ones delivering the solutions. They're the ones that know this game inside out.
Yeah, and that's the planning politics, unfortunately. That's the local authorities are that way inclined. I'm walking around here today. You employ a lot of people directly, and you do a lot of different things. Jeez, are you innovative? Well, that doesn't surprise me because that's how small business operates. Small businesses train 7 in 10 construction apprentices and they make up 90% of the training capacity in construction.
Rico,
so if you have no small businesses, you have no skilled
workforce. Got no skills, you got no innovation, you got no boots on the ground knowledge as part of your consultation, as part of your what's informing your policy making. We've got people that have 2 and 3 generations of the same family in this company that have brought in sons, bringing in their sons, and we've got daughters as well. People in accounts and so on. That doesn't happen if you're a company that's just a commercially driven company that doesn't really care about its people, that doesn't care about the outcomes, that doesn't take pride in what you're doing. But unfortunately, the success of the culture of a company like ours doesn't seem to translate into, well, let's see what they're doing right and what they know that we might not know.
Correct.
I follow a couple of incredible stonemasons on Instagram. I forget their names, but young lads that but the skills are out of this world. Take a piece of stone and create something decorative, but they're like 1 in a million. Yeah. 1 in a million. I was on ITV last night. Did you catch it?
No.
You put me in contact for that, right?
Yeah.
That was on last night.
They didn't tell me.
Yeah. 8:30 last night it was on, but that was all about this exact conversation about the skills shortage, and it's unbelievably scary situation. But it's not. It's easy to sort of blame the next generation and say, oh, they're all not motivated and this and that and the other. Why are they not motivated? Because there's no respect in society for people in the construction industry,
and they don't see a pipeline of career work. Even though it's a career.
And they're right to think that, because if you're shoehorning in modern methods of construction and you think that houses can be built on a conveyor belt in a factory, which is kind of what a lot of the narrative is now, which is absolute rubbish. And I know, not because I'm trying to halt progress, but because I've done it. I've built houses in factories and taken them to site and done pure off-site builds. It doesn't work. It's not a viable strategy for anything of any kind of quality or scale. But
there's also no standardisation.
There's no
which means that if a company goes bust, like quite a few have recently, who has the skills and the materials and the tools in order to go back and fix any errors that occur within that lifetime of the building?
Yeah.
Whereas we all know how to get into your cavity of your wall and solve those issues. So actually, without standardisation, I really worry that what we're producing are a lot of very
It's
poor
dangerous.
buildings.
It's genuinely dangerous.
Yeah.
You know,
But I am a supporter of MMC.
I am as well, and you know that as well. Yeah. But the MMC should be specific solutions to specific problems.
The government has got something called the MMC framework.
Yeah.
So modern method of construction framework.
Is there like the 7 types of MMCs?
7 definitions.
Yeah.
And they should, via planning and Homebuilding, which is a non-governmental department body that funds placemaking or housing, they should implement those 7 definitions where they can. Well, all they've done is they've implemented the first 2,
right?
But really focused on off-site and modular.
Yeah.
We've had 7 modular off-site companies go under in the last 2 years because it's not commercially viable under the current planning system to wait 2 or 3 years for a factory. A factory can't wait 2 or 3 years in order to build 200, 300 homes because they need to know that this is their order book and we're going to be delivering it because it's a factory system.
Yeah.
So you've made, immediately the planning system has made billions and millions of pounds, hundreds of millions of pounds that, by the way, it was taxpayer money given to them.
Available.
All unviable, instantly overnight. So loads of companies have gone. But that takes us again back to the modern method of construction 7 definitions because there's probably stuff you do here or you build that is actually modern methods of construction and fits within those 7 definitions, but you won't be recognised or supported, even though the whole of the industry can use what you do.
Truss roofs.
There you go.
Prefabricated truss roofs, standard. You know, we do that on most projects now, partially. So we'll do traditional cut roof with the bulk of it done off-site. You know, prefabricated. This policy of the spreads, the housing mix, is another one that you know that I absolutely despise. So fine. If you're building 500 homes, fine. You know, implement some kind of mix that is required on 10 homes.
Yeah.
Well, 8 is what we went into pre-app for. 8.
You can understand it, say it's a development of 30.
30 maybe.
Yeah, because
maybe.
You might have a few 2 or 3 beds, you might have a few 4 or 5 beds. That's a healthy kind of...
But then you think about areas like Four Oaks in Sutton Coldfield, you know, Roman Road, Luttrell Road, these sorts of places.
No,
we'll never see that again under these policies.
Oh God, no!
You can never build a row of £2 million houses for people that have worked their whole lives, been successful, and want to, translate that success into the place that they live. We'll never have that again. Yeah,
especially as many of them are set on a quarter of an acre or half an acre. That's
you
not dense enough for this.
You would never get that anymore.
But people are desperate to live in those homes.
People want to do that. And I think that the lack of diversification of the housing types and so on is already part of what's leading to a generation of demotivated, uninspired young people. Because they don't feel like there's any social mobility.
Yeah, and housing type is a really interesting conversation because the government wants us to build beautiful. Now, I have fought really hard against this because I don't think you can describe or define what beauty is. For example, my partner loves a house to be painted black. My God, she loves it. She would love to paint her house black. I don't really like it, but you know what? I don't care enough because I live on the inside of the building, not on the outside of the building. A lot of people absolutely detest a black coloured home. Yeah. So, and they would absolutely not allow it to happen. Well, one, tough. It's her house. If she wants to do it, and I don't care, let her do it. But also, she thinks that's beautiful. So how could you prescribe what beautiful is? And many of our our members will build really unique houses. And the pushback they'll get from local authorities, why have you used this brick? Why haven't you done that? Why haven't you built it like that? It's like, so what you're saying is you want us to build a large house builder, boring looking house.
So you want the same style, the same cookie cutter, toy town.
So we're not
nonsense.
really giving that a housing choice to people.
You know, bringing the conversation back to the commercial viability, the time and effort that is taken in the planning system is a cost. It's a cost. And if you want something beautiful, functional, sustainable, balanced with the wider context, let it through planning. And we could be building lots of interesting places to live that, you know, that speak specifically to certain people. You know, some people want to live in very, very modern, contemporary style, you know, minimalist times.
Love a good modern house.
You know what I mean?
Love
yeah.
them.
Look, listen, I hate modern architecture on the sort of commercial side and stuff, but modern architecture homes are lovely, beautiful.
Do you know what? I love modern architecture on the
Yeah.
commercial side.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, but this is the point I just made, and I know you agree with me. You can't prescribe beauty because you and I have got a different vision as to what beautiful is, and that's what a society is.
Yeah.
You can't prescribe how a society should function, act, and think. You should let society become
Be what it is. Yeah.
And what's best at doing that? I'm not going to say free market because we're never going to get a free market. There's always going to be regulations. A freer market.
A freer market, yeah. Freer market.
You know what people want, so you're going to build for that.
That's the point.
Why should you be restricted by someone else's vision?
That's right.
It's incoherent.
This is the thing that I keep saying in terms of the housing mix as a policy in general, is that, okay, anything that is normal housing development it's got a policy, it's got a housing mix policy imposed on it. You got affordable housing contributions, BNG, SIL. By the time you're done with all of these contributions and policies and so on,
section 38,
section 106, so many, right? Oh, by the time you're done imposing all these policies and contributions and sucking the profitability out of the developer or the builder, all you're left with is it's conceptually, it's what can be built. You sort of end up going, okay, what do you want me to build? Right, and we'll build it because you just at your wit's end, and it's tipping into non-viability. Yeah. So you've got what they want you to build, 99.9% of the properties that are being built today, homes, and then you've got the 0.1%, which are paragraph 78 or 79, paragraph 78 properties that are for the ultra rich. So, hang on, I thought this, modern governments were all about sort of equality and equity and, this and that and the other. It's like, well, you're just dividing the population into one single sort of middle class stroke working class, just one giant block, and then you got like a tiny 0.1%, rather than allowing interesting builders, design-led builders, service-led builders that have something unique to bring to the market. Let us get on with it and provide a diverse and interesting built environment. It's the same across the board. People think that whether you're a builder or a farmer or whatever it is, us troglodyte, people with some actual practical skills providing the solutions that society needs, they think that we hate the environment. They think we just greedy, money-grabbing so-and-sos, and we have no interest in the outcomes for whatever it is the solution that we're providing has on society. And it's just nonsense. Yeah, it's nonsense. All of our colleagues, listen, we have disagreements on the board, don't we?
Oh,
we have proper disagreements, and it gets very animated.
I love being a mediator.
Yeah. You love to watch. But the thing is that no one on the board is just commercially driven, or hates the environment, or everyone is.
You can't be if you're going to run a successful business.
Yes, precisely. That's right.
You can't be. You literally, and viability you mentioned earlier, and I was going to bring this up. People think that you make a load of money on development. Okay, the rules say you can make up to 20%. Typically, local authorities kind of accept between 10 and 15. Let's not go into the concepts of how you justify viability and how they base it on big builders and not small builders.
Don't get me started on
that.
Let's
talk about the RICS. Yeah, it is. But what people don't realise is if you're building a site of, say, 10 or 20, it might take you 2 or 3 years to get that over the line.
Yeah.
So for 2 or 3 years, you are paying your staff to do nothing.
Yeah.
So everything you make on that site
Yeah.
The cost that you've incurred during that
It's
period,
the profitability is not like...
they're not part of the viability assessment. You have to take whatever money you make on that site to pay.
People think builders are a public service. Like we're there just to do it just for shits and giggles. I don't know what they think.
And domestic perhaps makes a bit more than, say, contracting.
Domestic's healthier in terms of profit margins, but it has to be, because to mobilise on a site alone, it's a lot. And homeowners, rightfully, because they're spending their life savings, are scrutinised extremely tightly. What the costs are, and you're competing against very, very competitive builders, some that have zero overheads because they work out of their van and so on. So it's really, really tough.
And you sometimes face no payment rather than very late payments? Or
so
have you?
What we tend to see is that the unscrupulous clients, few and far between, and most clients are wonderful, but the bad ones, what they do is they do the same thing as main contractors do in commercial construction. Like subby bashing. They do the same tactic. They wait until the last quarter or the last fifth of the project and then start dismantling the relationship. They start picking on things that are not a problem and creating a problem, and just start all the goodwill and all the positivity and constructive nature of the relationship starts to go sour, and then you realise, you just don't want to pay the last 50 grand. That does happen in domestic, although I will say that most, the vast majority of clients are very honourable and, recognise the work that goes into it and pay well. But it's tough. It's really tough. Yeah. How about we start here? How about you actually do what you are required to do by the NPPF and be constructive and timely and do just start there. We've got... Even forget about our developments. Even on the domestic side, we've got maybe 8 or 10 projects that are stuck in planning. And that's our cash flow. That's our workforce having work to jump on. You start losing people at some point when you start going. Listen, you're gonna have to take a week off because I can't get these projects unlocked. People will go. And it's tragic because, the culture here is you stay for years and years and years.
Yeah, I've seen the same faces,
They're the best builders around, and they stay for years and years and years because they've always got the pipeline. Yeah. But the planning system, it's not just developments, it's even on domestic. It's utterly in dereliction of duty, and until it becomes unstuck, we will continue to have problems.
The country's productivity is based on the construction industry.
Yeah, goddamn right.
If you want business space, you want commercial business, you want green technology, you want green business, you want renewables, you want rail, you want houses.
Yeah.
Who is going to build it all? Only the construction industry. You're not going to go, God, we've got to build this nuclear power plant. We've got to build this wind turbine. Pop down to university and get a bunch of philosophers, would you? I mean, it's just, you need skilled people.
Yeah. For people that are watching or listening that may not sit through the whole episode, if we were to summarise the outlook and what we're facing at the moment and the way it looks going forward, is that I'd say that number one is the planning system with the overzealous sort of modern methods of construction and environmental policy lobbyists and so on and so forth, leading towards a skill shortage, lack of diversity in the design of homes and towns and cities, smaller and medium-sized builders, house builders dropping out the race, the consolidation of the house building industry into the big six, which will lead to lower quality homes, less diversification, and just an ugly built environment for the future. That's what I see.
Well, I'll take my points away. What have you left me with? 100% correct. And I would say that this is a land use issue. And it's a land use issue because if you want to use land, you'll have a planning system that accepts the use of land.
Yeah.
And builders will then build within the regulations because they don't have to worry about spending 90% of their time meeting regulation that says if you meet me anyway, you should get planning.
And the bureaucracy and administration it takes to create such a regimented system costs the taxpayers millions. That is unnecessary because there is a market that does the work for you.
correct. One of our members in Coventry just applied for the first time ever. Never done it before. I don't know why. For their costs on a development, they went to appeal and they applied for their costs.
Really?
They won it, and
because we're thinking.
the director said, because people didn't like to do it at smaller businesses because they don't want to sour their relationship with local authorities. But as you've told me, really, what's the point?
It can't get any worse. It can't get any worse.
Yeah,
so
but she said to me as director, I am going to do this again and again. I didn't realise how easy it would be to get costs back.
Really?
Who has to pay for that? The local council taxpayers.
Yeah, it's a shame.
So the council
It's a shame,
is
but then
not just making the development unviable by delaying it, but they're making their own budgets for the council unviable.
yes, precisely.
What's commercial viability? Understanding commercial viability.
And if people are upset by that, well, then take more seriously who you're putting in to your councils. Put in people that are going to run it well.
Well, I think we're asking for a little bit too much there, but I love the ambitions. I'm an
optimist.
Oh, I know.
There you go. All right, Rico, thank you, mate. Really appreciate it. Come back in a couple of weeks.
I'll be back.
All right, good. Brilliant.